This is the Insta360 X4. This thing is great. It's small, fun, and easy to use, and allows you to film shots that are much more creative than a normal camera. But if you don't know how to use this thing properly, your video could well end up looking like this. Yuck. And there's 10 things you need to know when using the X4, like this first thing we're going to talk about, the stitch line. The X4 has two lenses, one on either side of the camera. The camera records from both of these lenses and then joins them together to create a full 360-degree image. Where the two images are joined together is known as the stitch line. If you film your main subject when it's in this stitch line zone, you may get weird looking video like this. To avoid this, just make sure you point one of the two lenses directly at the main subject in your video, like this. For example, if you're filming yourself, look straight into one of the lenses. But if you have the stitch line pointing towards you like this, you may get some problems. If you're going to be using the X4 underwater, when it comes to the stitch line, there's something really important you need to know, which I'm going to cover later in the video. The stitch line is not all bad though, because it's the stitch line that enables the invisible selfie stick effect. An invisible selfie stick is the #1 accessory you absolutely must get for your X4. The invisible selfie stick attaches to the bottom of the X4. Because the selfie stick, even when extended, sits within that stitch line zone, the X4 is able to remove it from the resulting shot. This opens up a whole universe of creative shots, especially if you film yourself on your own, like holding the X4 out in front of you to simulate having a camera operator filming you. You can also hold it behind you to look like someone's following you. It's the invisible selfie stick that makes the shots possible. And these shots really help make your videos more interesting to watch. There's a few different versions. I use this short one and also the enhanced version that extends to 3 meters. Both of these are super light and fold down nice and compact. And it's this longer one that makes the next tip possible, and that's to film fake drone shots. Drone shots look awesome, but sometimes you might not be allowed to fly in an area, or it might not be safe to fly, or you might not just want to carry a drone around with you. In these cases, we can use the X4 on the long selfie stick to simulate a drone shot. You might look a bit odd to people when you're doing this, but sometimes you've just got to get the shot. I'll put links to both of the selfie sticks I'm using today in the video's description, along with any other accessories I mention. Number 4 is to make sure you take maximum advantage of the ability to reframe your shots when you're editing your videos. The absolute biggest benefit of using a 360 camera like the X4 is the ability to just go and film and then choose your shot when you edit. With a normal camera like the one I'm filming on right now, the shot that you film is the shot that you get. And sure, you can crop in a little bit like this, or maybe move things around the frame, but you're basically stuck with the thing that you filmed wherever the camera was pointing. But with the X4 being a 360-degree camera, you can just reframe your shot to look any way you want. Like in this driving shot, we could start off with the camera pointing at my face and then swing it around to look at the road ahead, or we could simply start with the camera looking at me and then cut straight to the road ahead to simulate filming with 2 cameras. Okay, number 5, make sure you get to know the apps, whether this is the mobile app or the desktop app. You can do things like auto track an object to keep the reframing pointing at it, add motion blur to make things look a bit more natural, or other fun effects like the tiny planet effect, even edit on the go with the mobile app, which even has an auto edit feature. It's definitely worth spending some time to get to know these apps if you really want to get the absolute most out of your X4. Number 6 is stabilization. The X4 has a 6-axis gyroscope, which means it can record loads of data to help with the stabilization. Insta360 call this flow state stabilization. It will even lock the horizon or your subject in place to keep it upright no matter how the camera is rotated around like this. With this feature, you don't even need a gimbal to get smooth looking footage. Tip 7 is to not be afraid of water when you're using your X4. This thing is waterproof down to 10 meters without any additional accessories. Just remember to make sure all of the flaps are closed and properly sealed before using it underwater, and the lens guards are not recommended for use in water. This means you can use the X4 for water sport shots or even more creative possibilities. And if you want to go deeper than 10 meters, you're going to need one of the next things we're going to talk about, accessories. Number 8 accessories. I already mentioned the importance of having a selfie stick, but to really get the most out of your X4 and make your videos stand out from everybody else's, you're going to want to get some accessories. Earlier, I mentioned one important thing you need to bear in mind when using the X4 underwater, and that's the fact that underwater light behaves or bends a bit differently. That's where the first accessory, the invisible dive case, comes in handy. This case lets you dive down to 50 meters underwater, and importantly, it also corrects that bending of light that happens underwater. Even if you're not going to be diving down anywhere near 50 meters, you're going to want to get an invisible dive case so you make sure your selfie stick stays invisible. Next up, we've got the mouth mount accessory. You look pretty funny when using this thing, but it lets you film point of view footage and is especially useful if you're doing something that needs both hands but you still want to film. There's also a bike mount you can attach to the front of your bike to get that awesome cycling footage. If you want to attach a mic with a cable or use a wireless mic receiver such as the Rode or the DJI Mic 2, you're going to need a couple of things. First thing is this wireless adapter that plugs into the USB socket and allows you to plug in an audio cable. And the second thing is this cold shoe adapter, which allows you to actually physically mount a receiver on the side of the X4. There's also a special one available for the Rode wireless receivers. If you want to get a POV shot, but you don't want to use a mouth mount, say you want to talk while you're recording, you could go with the chest strap, or you could get the backpack mount to get a third-person view. There's also a couple of small things which are really going to help. One of them is the lens cap. This is just going to protect the lenses or the lens protectors you've got fitted to your X4. And the other thing that's pretty cheap but is super useful is to get this pack which contains 2 wrist straps. These just screw into the bottom of your selfie stick. If you drop your selfie stick, you're not necessarily going to damage your X4. So recommend using one of these if you're using a selfie stick underwater, for example with the dive case. I'll put links to all of these things in the video description. Basically, think about the kinds of creative shots you want to get and then get the accessories that are going to enable you to get those shots. You don't always have to use the X4 in 360 mode. You can use it as a regular action camera by switching it to single lens mode. That's what I'm filming in right now. You can film in 4K up to 60 frames a second in this mode. Just be aware that you won't be able to reframe your shot when you're editing, but sometimes you might not need that. Don't be afraid to put your X4 on a tripod and let other things in the scene move. Like this shot where I'm just walking past the X4 that's on my tripod. You can either reframe it as you walk past like this, or keep it locked off and let the action in the frame do the talking.